first grade. Today we get to talk about caterpillars. If you remember from yesterday, we talked about the butterfly life cycle, and we learned that butterflies start as eggs and then they move into the larva stage, which is the stage we're talking about today because that's where our butterflies become caterpillars. And then from the larva stage, they move into the pupa stage where they move into this chrysalis. And from the pupa stage, they move into the adult stage. So today, we're really focused on caterpillars and the larva stage. And two questions we're going to answer today is, what do caterpillars eat? And how do caterpillars protect themselves? And so you can see up here, that's where our sentence stems are. It says, caterpillars eat blank. And we get to fill in that blank today. And caterpillars protect themselves by blank. And we get to fill in that blank today too. Before we start, we're going to read a really interesting book. Before we do that, we're going to talk about the different vocabulary words. So, as you can see right behind me is all of our vocabulary words that we worked on yesterday. We're going to go over those, and I have some really nifty pictures to go with them. The first picture is metamorphosis. Remember, metamorphosis is a series of physical changes that some animals go through to become adults. It's them changing from being, say, a larva into an adult, or from the younger stage of their life into the adult stage. Our next word is compound eye, and I actually have two really cool pictures for that. The first one is this, and you can see the little circle around his eyes. And this one is a close-up. A compound eye is the eye of a butterfly made up of many individual lenses, which is why this one has so many little parts to it. Those are the individual lenses. The next word we have is chrysalis. And remember, in the pupa stage, they create a chrysalis. A chrysalis is a hard shell spun by a caterpillar, moth, or other insect where metamorphosis takes place. And that's that third stage of the butterfly life cycle. Our next word is camouflage. Camouflage is color and patterns on an animal that allow it to blend into its environment. And you can see in this picture, this butterfly is using camouflage to make it look like a leaf. And so it's trying to blend in with the other leaves on that tree or plant. This next one is prolegs. Prolegs are short legs with hooks on them that are found on the abdomen of a caterpillar. And you can see I circled one of the prolegs. It's how our caterpillars move around and how they climb up trees and plants and other things to get their food. Our next word is proboscis, and I circled this one as well. It's a long, straw-like feeding tube that butterflies use to sip nectar from flowers. So they use their proboscis to get the nectar out of flowers, and tomorrow when we talk about butterflies and what they eat, we're going to talk about the proboscis a little bit more. Our last one is antenna, and antennae are the long appendages attached to the head of a butterfly that are used to sense its environment, and those are just at the very top of our little butterfly friend. So those are our vocabulary words. So we're going to read a story, and this story is an informational text, so it's non-fiction, and it's called Face to Face with Caterpillars. And this really cool photographer wrote this book, and he wrote about caterpillars and lots of different things. We're not going to read the whole book, but we're going to read parts of it. This first part says, meet the caterpillar. Imagine what it is like to grow up as an insect. What insect would you like to be? I think I would like to be a roly-poly. Those are my favorite. You wouldn't have a skeleton inside you like people do. You'd have one on the outside. And instead of growing gradually, your body would go through distinct stages, each looking totally different from the previous stage. As a youngster, you'd be known as a caterpillar, or a larva, or the second life stage of a butterfly or moth. And so they took some really nice pictures of caterpillars, so we get to look at a bunch of different ones. So this next section is called Eating Machines, and so in this section we're going to read about different things that different caterpillars eat. A caterpillar needs the right kind of diet to survive. An egg-laying butterfly or moth will make an effort to find the right kind of host plant before laying her eggs. And a host plant is a plant that when the caterpillar hatches, it'll eat those plants. And so they try and lay them in places so the caterpillars don't have to move around a lot. When an egg hatches, the new caterpillar usually eats its eggshell first. Could you imagine that? If you came out of an egg and then your first meal was eating the shell? That's weird. We don't eat shells of eggs, but caterpillars do. Then it eats the leaves and tender stems of its host plant. Some caterpillars dine alone. Others feed in groups. They can strip an entire plant of its leaves. Some caterpillars, like those of the gypsy moth, feed on many different kinds of host plants. So you can see we have this caterpillar over here that's eating alone, and these ones that eat in groups. And caterpillars eat a ton. They have to so that they can grow big and go through metamorphosis. Others have very fussy diets. They may only be able to eat one or just a few kinds of plants. There are caterpillars who can even eat poisonous host plants. They are not harmed by the plant's poisons. Instead, the plant's poisons make the caterpillars taste bad to animals who try to eat them. So some caterpillars can eat poisonous plants, but they're not hurt by them. In fact, the poison in those plants ends up helping the caterpillars. Not all caterpillars eat leaves. Some will eat flower parts, beeswax, and even insects. I've seen, and not me, but the photographer has seen caterpillars make host bugs both their homes and their dinner. Other caterpillars, like the one above, so you can see this one with the little white things on it, he's blending in, he's using camouflage. Other caterpillars aren't so lucky and become dinner themselves. To eat but not be eaten is the name of the game. Being low on the food chain, caterpillars encounter lots of threats. Let's see how they deal with them. So we learned that caterpillars eat lots of different things. One of the things that they eat is leaves. Another thing are plants, and some caterpillars even eat insects. The most common thing that caterpillars eat are leaves or parts of plants, and they use really, really strong jaws to do that. And so when we look at our sentence stem up here, it says, what do caterpillars eat? Well, caterpillars eat leaves of trees and plants with flowers. And so we'll fill in our first sentence. Our next section of this book is called Self-Defense, and that's where we get to learn how caterpillars protect themselves. Caterpillars are masters of self-defense. They need to be since the odds are against them. They are food for lots of other animals. Most caterpillars are eaten before reaching adulthood, but some will make it because they have adapted clever ways to survive. So did you hear that? Most caterpillars are eaten before they can become butterflies or even get into their pupa stage because they're a really tasty treat for a lot of different animals like birds. But some will make it, and we're going to learn how. In the field, the photographer, that's the person that wrote this book, has come face to face with some startling caterpillars. But when I looked closer, I realized their faces were phony. When threatened, they tuck their real heads under and flash a false face with big eyes to scare animals, especially birds and me. So if you look at this one looks like he's got a really, really big head, but he doesn't. It's a fake head that when he's threatened by another animal, he tucks his head into it so that his real head is protected. A passing bird might mistake a monkey slug caterpillar for a large, hairy spider. But once the bird attacks, it's in for a surprise. The caterpillar detaches its false legs to protect the main part of its body. Many caterpillars rely on camouflage to avoid being seen. Some look like their background, whether it's a twig, a leaf, a flower, moss, or lichen. The opposite strategy is to stand out like a sore thumb. Caterpillars with bright colors are advertising their bad taste so that predators will avoid them. I encountered a spiny, transparent caterpillar in Costa Rica. As I prepared my camera to take a picture, I accidentally brushed its spines with the back of my hand and felt a stinging chemical. The intense pain that followed didn't let up for a good 20 minutes. It's a vivid reminder to keep away. The puss moth caterpillar uses another form of chemical defense. So some caterpillars blend in with their environment or try and look like other animals. And some have poison on the outside of them that makes them taste really, really gross to other animals. So we can see this guy over here. He is an inchworm, and he's blended in to blend in with that stick he's next to. So he's using camouflage. Some caterpillars use another chemical defense called formic acid that they squirt into the eyes of their enemy. The acid comes from a gland just below the caterpillar's head. What's more, it waves two rubbery pink tentacles that release an odor to keep predators away. So some caterpillars release a really bad smelling odor to keep other animals away and to keep them from eating them. Caterpillars might hide during the day in a leaf litter on the ground, or they might cling to the underside of leaves where passing birds won't see them. They may even use silk in their defense. When threatened, small caterpillars often bungee jump from a silk thread attached to a leaf or branch. When the caterpillar is finished reeling out silk, it waits a while in midair, then climbs back up hand over hand, gathering up the thread to reuse it again. So some caterpillars don't have camouflage or the ability to look like other animals or even to release poison. So instead, they use escape maneuvers, like they hide under leaf piles, or they use silk to bungee jump off of leaves. Some caterpillars, called leaf rollers, use their silk to curl a leaf and stitch it shut so they can hide inside. Tent caterpillars work together to build a communal tent. If the tent isn't enough for protection, they wriggle as a group, thrashing. So you can see this one has a really thin skein of silk, and this other one, they've made a tent out of silk. So these guys are able to use their environment and their special skills to help themselves escape. And so we learned a lot of different ways that caterpillars can protect themselves, but some of the main ways that we see are caterpillars can use poison, camouflage, big eye spots, and bad smells. So caterpillars protect themselves by poison, camouflage, eye spots, and bad smells. So we've answered both of our questions. We're going to move over to the table and we're going to read two more short articles together, and then we're going to fill out our page for the day, okay? I'll see you in a second. All right, first grade, we're looking at our butterfly packet, and I'm going to show you how many pages I need you to turn so that we can start reading our story. Okay, today we get to skip a page, so make sure you're watching really close. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages in. So 6 page turns until we get to this page that says, what do caterpillars eat? Find that page. Pause the video if you need to. Here's our colored version, and this is the version that I'm going to read to you so that you can look at all these really vibrant and pretty colors. So remember, when we read, we're following along with our finger, so don't forget, when you read, we follow along with our finger. Okay? So look down at your page, get ready. Butterflies lay their eggs on the types of plants that caterpillars like to eat. A female butterfly can tell if a plant is suitable to lay eggs on by chemicals released from the plant after she drums her legs on the leaf surface. Caterpillars use their strong jaws to munch on the leaves of trees and plants with flowers. Ooh, look up. So remember, caterpillars use their strong jaws to munch on leaves of trees and plants with flowers. So let's look back, find where we are. We're at they, point to it, look at your page. They often eat just one type of plant during their lifetime. Monarch caterpillars will eat only milkweed leaves, while painted lady caterpillars prefer thistle, hollyhock, or mallow plants. caterpillars don't need to drink water. They get all the moisture they need from the leaves they eat. So that's really interesting. Look up. Caterpillars don't drink water. Instead, they get their water from the water that's inside of the leaves and the plants that they eat. And so, certain caterpillars will only ever eat one type of plant. Like the monarch butterfly eats only the mallow plant, and the painted lady caterpillar eats thistles, hollyhock, or mallow plants, so they choose from a bunch of different ones. Okay, let's look at our page again. You're going to take your page, you're going to turn one more page, turn one, and you're going to be on this side that says, how do caterpillars protect themselves? Go ahead and pause the video if you need to and get to the right page because we're going to read another short story and then we're going to go over what we need to do today, okay? So remember, when we read, we follow along. So put your finger under the first word. Eyes are on your paper. And if I need you to look up, I'll say look up. So make sure you're really focused. Ready? Caterpillars are an inviting meal for birds, wasps, and even some mammals. They use an array of defenses to protect themselves. Some caterpillars, such as the monarch, are poisonous to predators. They secrete toxins from the milkweed plants they eat. Stop, look up. So remember, one of the ways that caterpillars protect themselves is by using poison that comes out of their body that makes them taste really bad or is dangerous to other animals that would like to eat them. Okay, we're at usually. Find your spot. Look at your page. Usually, brightly colored caterpillars are poisonous and use their color to remind predators not to eat them. Other caterpillars use camouflage to blend into their surroundings and are a color that matches the plant they feed on. Pause, look up. So you can see this green caterpillar right here. He's using camouflage to blend in to this green plant that he's on, that he lives on and eats. So caterpillars use poison and camouflage. Okay, let's find our spot. We're at some. Ready? Let's go. Some caterpillars, just like butterflies, have eye spots that make them look bigger and more dangerous, like an owl or a snake. When caterpillars are threatened, they can give off a very bad smell. Stop, look up. So, some caterpillars have eye spots that make them look like they have really big eyes, like other predators, so like owls or snakes. And some caterpillars can give off a really, really bad smell. So that's 4 ways that caterpillars can protect themselves. They are poisonous. They use camouflage. They have eye spots. Or they give off a bad, stinky smell. Okay, let's find our spot. We're right here at this. Ready? Let's go. This prevents insects like flies and wasps from laying eggs on them. Zebra swallowtails are one type of caterpillar that uses this defense. They have a gland on their neck that emits a strong, unpleasant odor when the caterpillar is threatened. That's so interesting. So we're going to take our packet, and you should be on this page right here still. How do caterpillars protect themselves? Here's what you're going to do. You're not going to turn the page. You're going to take your whole packet, and you're going to flip it over. And you can see right here, I scribbled this one out because we're going to do that page later on a bigger page. So instead, you have 2 boxes, and I even started it off for you. The first box is right here. It says, what do caterpillars eat? And so we start our sentence. We say, caterpillars eat blank. And if you remember, I want you to write in the different things that caterpillars eat. We read a story about it, and we read that small article about it. So there's lots of different resources for you to use. Another thing you could use is we answered this question earlier in the video. You can go back and check it. Our second box says, how do caterpillars protect themselves? So we start our sentence. Caterpillars protect themselves by blank. Same thing. We read that book that tells us how caterpillars protect themselves. We read the article that tells us how caterpillars protect themselves. Remember, there's 4 reasons. And earlier today in the video, we already answered that question, so this should be super easy. The second thing I want you to do that I didn't do on this page, so you're answering the question, you're filling in the blank, and then I want you to draw a picture. So for this first one, I want you to draw a picture of what caterpillars eat. You can draw one or you can draw more. And on this one, I want you to draw a picture of how do caterpillars protect themselves. And if you need help drawing a caterpillar, you can always go online and look up different ways to draw a caterpillar. Because that's what I did when I drew our really fun caterpillar earlier. Okay, that's what you gotta do today. Good luck. You've got this. I'll see you tomorrow.